Welcome to the Forever Cash Life Real Estate Investing Podcast with your hosts, Jack and Michelle Bosch. Together, let's uncover the secrets to building true wealth through real estate and living a purpose-driven life.
Hello, everyone. This is Jack Bosch speaking, and welcome to another episode of the Winning Wednesday and or of the Forever Cash Life Real Estate Investing Podcast, which we usually now combine in the Winning Wednesday and for the podcast. So I'm super excited because what I'm going to talk to you about today is how this all works with how do you get lists from the counties? How do you select the right price range? Like, it's all about this. Like, you identify the county and you're getting a list from the county, and how do you select your records from that list in the county so that you ultimately target the kind of properties that you want to target on? How about that? Hey, and Jason, I see you on here. Wonderful, Jason. Thank you for coming on. We're doing this live in Facebook, and we're also probably going to broadcast this as a podcast. So Jason, just heard you're closing a couple of deals very, very soon. That is exciting. So that's another example of our coaching program and how well it works. And so guys, okay, so this is Winning Wednesday. What we do on Winning Wednesday is I take a subject out of the vast amount of subjects that are around land flipping and land investing that I can teach about, and I'm going to cover this right now. And today I'm going to cover a question that was actually just asked to our coaches in our coaching program, and that caused a little bit confusion. And that question is with a student more than anything, which is the following. So here's where we want to go. So here's how I want to cover that. When you send out letters, when you contact these property owners, what you want to do is you want to contact the property owners who have properties that are worth market value between like 5 on the very bottom end and about $200,000-$300,000 on the high end. Now the top high end is a little flexible, right? Because we have students, we don't just teach bottom feeding. Like, there's a lot of people in this industry that basically figured out that you can buy a $5,000 property for $250 and go sell it for $5,000 with seller financing and get a $250 down payment. That is great. We teach that. We have done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of deals like that, if not a couple of thousand, not that many, but probably 1,000, 1,500 deals like that fall into that category. But would you rather like to make $3,000 or $5,000 on a deal, or would you rather like to make $200,000 on a deal? Well, therefore, we also teach you all the way to the other side. We teach you how to take your business and make 6 figures in a deal, right? How to take that $600,000 property, put it on a contract. Or one of our coaches actually has a deal working right now on a property that has an assessed value of $770,000, which really in that state means it's $1 million property, and they already gotten that sale. They have negotiated a sale price with the seller, in this case for $580,000. So they can easily turn around and probably sell that property for a $700,000 quick sale and make over $100,000 in the process as profit in the middle. How would you like to make $100,000, or you'd like to make $5,000 a deal, or would you like to make both, right? Because with us, we're the only company in the industry that teaches you all of land flipping. So when a $5,000 deal comes along, you know what to do. When a $100,000 deal that comes along, you know what to do. When $1 million deal comes along, you know what to do. Let's talk about what I just covered, right? So what I want to cover, is when you go out and select your counties, and we've had other podcasts about that, and we've had other sessions about that, and we're going to cover that this weekend, obviously, much more. But if you go out and select your counties based on the criteria, once you selected your counties, you now need to go and get data records that you can send out the direct mail piece to. And because we know there's so little competition in our market that direct mail still works, will probably always work. And so direct mail is the method of choice. So now the thing is, we want to focus on properties that are worth between $5,000 to, let's say, $200,000. That's our sweet spot, the $5,000 to $200,000 in value. So therefore, however, the counties or the data services that you can get these data pieces from, the counties don't keep data. They don't have property records based on market value. They only have property records based on assessed value. So, and each state has different rules on how they determine that assessed value. So, for example, in Arizona, where I live, the assessed value is typically, or before I say that, what these states have in common is that almost every state, except for California, has special rules. But outside of California, every state has basically, there's a ratio, what we call a rule of thumb, between the assessed value of the property and the market value of the property. And that rule in a stable real estate market is more or less semi-reliable. It's not 100% reliable. You can't count, you make your offers only based on that, but you can operate based on that in your record selection. Right? So in other words, let's say there's this rule of thumb that for example, in Arkansas, the county assessor determines that a property sold at market value for $50,000, and then for whatever reason, the state of Arkansas decided that they're going to put an assessed value on that property, and a county records assessed value of 20% of market value. So if you're in Arkansas, what you see, if a property is, therefore, if you see a property that it's assessed, that's in the county records assessed at $10,000, that really means its market value is $50,000. All right, got that. At the same time, you go into Florida, and in Florida, the assessed value, the state of Florida have decided that around the county, all through the counties, that the county assessors are going to assess the properties at 80 to 90% of market value. Right? So it's about 80, 90%. They might tell you it's close to market value, it's market value, but it's really close to like 80, 90% of market value. So therefore, let's take this example. So you want properties that are worth market value between $500,000 and $200,000, but you have a database that only shows you assessed values. What do you pick in that database? If you go to the county in Arkansas, what do you pick? Well, in the county in Arkansas, you pick records that have an assessed value that corresponds to that difference, right? So you know that if a property has an assessed value of $1,000, its market value should be around $5,000, right? Hope that makes sense. Now, at the same time, a property that has an assessed value of $40,000, because $1,000, $5,000 is $1,000 is 20% of $5,000, right? So if Arkansas assesses properties in the county records at 20% of market value, then you got to pick from starting at the assessed value that represents the $5,000 market value, and you got to stop picking. Your ceiling is at property records where the assessed value represents $200,000. Right? I hope that makes sense. So therefore, now in this scenario, in Arkansas, you would pick properties that have a market value between $1,000, that have an assessed value between $1,000 and $40,000, because that represents a market value of $5,000 to $200,000. Now in Florida, that's completely different, guys. In Florida, you look at it and you're like, well, the county only gives me assessed values, but I want to get to the market value. Well, if assessed value is, let's say, 90% of market value, then I pick something in Florida. If I want to have the market value of $5,000, I look at the assessed value of basically $4,500 or $4,000, somewhere there, because that's like 80, 90% of the $5,000 market value. And on the upper end, I'll pick $190,000 assessed value as my ceiling, because that represents a market value of what? Of about $200,000. We don't have to be super accurate. This is half science, half art, guys. Half science, half art, right? So, but bottom line is, what I know is that if I do that in Florida, if I start picking at $4,500, I'm not going to get any garbage land in there that's only worth $500. I also know that I'm not, by putting the ceiling to $180,000, which represents a market value of $200,000, I also know that I don't get any kind of like $10 million, $50 million trophy properties in there that for sure the sellers are not going to give away for cheap, right? So it allows me to be reasonably sure that I get the range of values that I want to go after, because experience of over 4,000 deals have proven, right? That's what we have done, Michelle and I, has proven that this is our sweet spot where we get the most deals done, right? So therefore, when you go into a state or into an area, you first need to figure out what is that ratio. What is that ratio? The simplest way to do that is you pick up the phone. Right? You pick up the phone, you call a county, ask to their county assessor, and just ask them, hey, I see that these properties are assessed for $10,000, $20,000 here. What does that mean in relation to market value? And they'll tell you, oh yeah, we assess these properties about 50% of market value, 100% of market value, 10% of market value, 2/3 of market value, 3/4 of market value. Every state is different. And if you go into the Northeast, where there's some areas, some states that even have townships, in some of these, it's even different from township to township. So if you're not sure if it's the same from county to county or township to township, then pick up the phone a few times, right? And just call them. And that's the easiest way to do it. It's a quick 2-minute phone call, and then you got your answer. So they tell you, we assess the value at 2/3 of market value. Okay. So now what do we pick? If we want $5,000 to $200,000 in property value, what do we pick? Well, we'll pick properties that are, what's 2/3 of $5,000? Well, 2/3 of $5,000 is something like, if you don't know it by head, you just basically say, right, $5,000 divided by 3 times 2. So you have to divide it into 1/3, and then you multiply it. So you have 2/3. It's $3,333. So you basically have, now what you have here is you have the assessed value is now, you start in that state, in that county, you start selecting your records at an assessed value of $3,333, or you can go a little bit off that. You can say 3,000, right? Or you can say 3,500. That's up to your choice. Half science, half art, right? You want to rather have some more of the lower priced ones, or you want to rather not so have the lower priced ones? Then you go up a little bit from there, right? It's your freaking business. We give you the guidelines, but our guidelines are not laws. They're guidelines, right? And then on the top end of it, well, what's 2/3 of $200,000, right? And that is $133,333. So basically the ceiling here is around the $130,000, $140,000, $150,000 range. Again, you can go outside of it a little bit. If you rather want to have some more upscale properties and rather want to have some more high-end properties, you bring it up to $150,000. If you rather want to be in the below $100,000 or $150,000 range, you bring it down to $100,000 or $120,000. You get to choose that. But what we know in such a state where the assessed value is 2/3 of market value, by accounting for that, we now select from the county records that have an assessed value of $3,300 all the way to $133,000, which represents a market value of $5,000 all the way to $200,000. Is that easy? That's easy, right? That's what you need to do. Now, ultimately, though, once we send out these letters and make offers, it's all going forward. It's all based on market value. And even the county selection is based on market value, but we don't have market values. What we have is assessed values from the county. So we got to basically back into these assessed values in the way that I just explained. All right. I hope that makes sense. I hope that was interesting. If you have any questions, please make sure you post them below. Make sure in there, and then we'll make sure we monitor those posts, the podcasts, all those different things, and we will answer those questions then. Right? And with that said, the next step after that is, once you have those records, you now go load them into our software, right? The Investment Dominator, investmentdominator.com. You load them into the software. You use the software to generate your letters. You mail them out to the mailing house, and ideally in batches. You do all the extra steps that we talked about. With that said, thank you very much. That concludes our episode today. With that said, give us a thumbs up, give us some love, right? Share it with your friends. Invite other friends to come over to a Land Profit Generator Real Estate Investing group, Facebook group, right? So if you're listening to this on iTunes, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you come over to Facebook and request to join our Facebook group called Land Profit Generator Real Estate Investing. All right. So with that said, bye-bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Enjoyed this episode? Then make sure you like, subscribe, and post your comments and questions below the video. We're looking forward to hearing from you.